Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Love is in the air as newly opened restaurants prepare for a busy Valentine's Day Sunday. Plus, it's time to take the plunge. We show you who was brave enough to get drenched for a good cause. And the federal government purchases an extra 4 million doses of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks for joining us. New quarantine measures and mandatory COVID-19 tests for travelers arriving in Canada will start in 10 days. As of the 22nd of this month, new arrivals must quarantine in a government-appointed hotel at their own expense and wait for the results of a COVID-19 test. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says there will be exceptions for some essential workers, but he made it clear that no one should be traveling for any non-essential reason right now, and says the new measures are necessary to help stop the spread of COVID-19, especially the new variants. People arriving in Canada are already subject to a mandatory 14-day quarantine and must show proof of a negative COVID test taken within 3 days of their arrival. The federal government has bought an extra 4 million doses of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine, and Prime Minister Trudeau says 4 million doses of the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine will be shipped by the end of next month, as per its contract. Trudeau says 10.8 million doses of that vaccine is expected to be shipped from April to June. Trudeau also announced the government is investing $53 million on a strategy to monitor the more infectious UK and South African variants, saying no one wants a third wave to start. Some positive news on the COVID front. Alberta's case numbers appear to be going down. In the past day, only 314 new cases of COVID were confirmed in our province, while over 8,400 tests were performed in the past 24 hours. This brings our current number to less than 6,000. There are 371 COVID patients currently in hospital, and 66 of those are in ICU. There are no new deaths to report today, but there have been a total of 1,760 deaths in Alberta due to COVID, and our province has now seen 121,068 recovered cases. We're coming up on the Family Day long weekend, followed by Reading Week for students next week. To celebrate the kids being off from school and families spending more quality time together, the Nature Center will be hosting a daily dose of nature activities in the Nature Reserve Park from Saturday, February 13th through next Friday, the 19th. Each day, a new activity will be available. Visit the kiosk outside the Helen Schuler Nature Center for instructions and materials. The activities are designed to be fun for all ages. Love is in the air and it's contagious. Bouquets and romantic dinners are making a strong comeback this weekend. And as Loris Alexander speaks with a Lethbridge florist and the Water Tower Grill, she tells us why they're busy and what's love got to do with it.
The weekend is just starting and people have actually been ordering earlier. So guys notoriously are known to leave things maybe to the end. So Valentine's is a lot of on the day before, and for those guys that are the day after. But yeah, the weekend is looking to be really busy.
Their bestseller is a no-brainer, but there's a funky new addition.
Red roses, definitely, like our dozen red roses arranged in a vase is clearly our best seller. We do bring in a rainbow rose, which is multicolored petals, which is different and cool. And so we don't bring in a ton of them because they are a little bit more expensive, but people love them.
Here's how Jorgensen will be celebrating Valentines.
Now that restaurants are opened up, definitely, look to do something like that.
If it's the Water Tower Grill, hopefully he's already made a reservation.
We are very busy. We are fully booked today, tomorrow, and Sunday, which is very good because we really appreciate the support from the community.
So what's on the menu?
Fixed 4-course meal. We're serving sharing appetizers and surf and turf, local meat, and jumbo prawns, or chicken or salmon.
What does Canal want for Valentine's?
And I hope we don't have to close again, because that will be very hard for us. It's hard for everyone else, for our whole entire team. As a business, as a worker, it's going to be very hard for us if we have to go back again.
For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
Thank you, Loris. Well, it is our first COVID Valentine's Day, and while grown-ups might be bummed about it, students at Children of St. Martha's School didn't even notice. Ainsley O'Reilly reports.
Students at the Children of St. Martha Elementary School still got to participate in sharing Valentines. They brought them in earlier in the week, giving them time to sanitize just in time for sharing on Friday.
You might not be able to give hugs or shake hands or, play with all the children in the school, but they are very much loved here in their classrooms.
Everything is a little bit different, but surprising, unexpected, pleasant surprises along the way. The kids are resilient and just so good, and look forward to giving back.
For a third year, teachers organized heart art outside the school. Students curated warm messages and watched from inside as people came by and received their gifts.
The community members are encouraged to come by and just get a little love from these children.
We do have some mums and dads that come, or grandmas, but we also have just community members, and it's so neat to see the smiles on their faces, and we talk about giving back and what that means.
One teacher even received words of thanks from a former staff member whose day was made by the kind messages of a grade 6 girl.
The look on her face was just wonderful. Just made my day and makes all the work and the effort so much real and worth it.
For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
Thank you, Ainsley. I love seeing all those excited kids. And speaking of schools, Wilson Middle School has recently been notified by Alberta Health Services that they've identified a second case of COVID-19 at that school. Public health staff are investigating to determine who else may have been exposed at the school. A single case has also been reported at Winston Churchill High School. The Community Safety Standing Policy Committee voted Thursday to not extend the current temporary mandatory face coverings bylaw in Lethbridge. The motion was approved 3-1. Councillor Blaine Higgin brought the motion forward, with Councillor Mark Campbell being the only one who voted against the motion.
We have one from the province, and before, when we put our mask bylaw in, the province didn't have one. The province has one now. So it's definitely time, in my opinion, to let that expire and continue on with the provincial mask bylaw. A recommendation from the committee is, we had a 3-1 recommendation from the committee to take that particular view on removing our own local bylaw. But again, it comes to council and things can really change, and so I don't know what that will look like, but definitely it's something that we would recommend.
Perhaps the numbers here in Lethbridge are actually not to the point where we feel that it's safe. And I just want to have that consultation with local officials, with our own health department saying we agree with what the province says. So I just want to have that little clause in there to just make sure that we are being safe. I'm all in favor of getting rid of face masks, as I think everybody in the city is, but I want to do it safely. And I think adding that element to it keeps us safe.
The final vote for the motion will take place on February 23rd at Lethbridge City Council, where they can either shoot it down or affirm it. Members of the Lethbridge Police Service are taking the plunge today for the Special Olympics as part of the 2021 Law Enforcement Torch Run Polar Plunge. As Micah Quinn explains, instead of members taking their usual dip in a city pond, the members jumped into an unheated hot tub.
Plunging into freezing water for a cause. That's what members of the Lethbridge Police Service did today in support of Special Olympics athletes in Alberta.
So this is the 10th year that we've done the Polar Plunge here in Alberta. So that's why it's called the Plunge X. And it has raised over $1 million. That it is one of our biggest fundraising events for Alberta for Law Enforcement Torch Run, which supports Special Olympics. So it supports over 3,000 athletes in Alberta.
The Polar Plunge is going virtual this year, with a goal of $100,000 to raise for the Special Olympics, and the event is encouraging participants to show off their best plunges.
everybody all over the province who's participating, they're able to do something unique, and so that's why we chose to support one of our sponsors that we've had for many years, is jump into one of their normal hot tubs, which is going to be cold today with ice floating on the top. So we're here, Arctic Spa is going to actually jump in an Arctic tub.
This is the first year in our city that Lethbridge Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh is taking the plunge.
Done it before in Manitoba in very, very minus 28, minus 32 conditions. So, but again, it's never easy, but I'll be doing it 100 times over, more times, as long as I know it's going to a good cause.
For more information on the Polar Plunge, you can visit the Special Olympics Polar Plunge website. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
That looked a little bit chilly. Thank you, Micah. Well, it's Lunar New Year today as the Chinese celebrate the Year of the Ox. In a Facebook post, Premier Jason Kenney says after a tumultuous Year of the Rat, the Year of the Ox dawns with new hope.
They say the people born in the Year of the Ox are hardworking, industrious, and earnest. Well, that sounds like a pretty good description of Albertans to me, and of those East Asian communities who have brought such a culture of enterprise, hard work, and also compassion for others.
A bail hearing is set today for a man charged with first-degree murder in the hit-and-run death of a Calgary police officer. Police allege that 19-year-old Amir Abdulrahman was a passenger in an SUV that Sergeant Andrew Harnett tried to stop on New Year's Eve. Harnett was hit and dragged and later died in hospital. A youth court judge has already denied bail to the SUV's alleged driver, who was 17 at the time and cannot be identified. The Alberta government has won a temporary court order banning a northern municipality from pulling out of the consolidated ambulance dispatch system. Justice Kent Davidson has issued an interim injunction that orders the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo to resume transferring medical emergency calls to Alberta Health Services. The municipality stopped transferring calls at noon yesterday after its council decided the new service was putting patients at risk due to delays and confusion. The interim injunction takes effect at noon tomorrow and will remain in effect until an application for a permanent order can be heard in March. The province has been consolidating emergency medical dispatch services to save money and recently forced Red Deer, Calgary, Lethbridge, and Wood Buffalo to make the change despite their objections. A search of a West Edmonton home yielded $700,000 worth of cash and drugs, including cocaine, meth, fentanyl, and mushrooms, among others. Alert, Edmonton's organized crime and gang team, made the seizure on February the 8th at a home in the Glastonbury neighborhood. Staff Sergeant Lance Parker showcases some of the drugs seized.
In this investigation, during the execution of the search warrant in the residence, they located several types of controlled substances, and what's significant is the types. So it includes cocaine, and then LSD and psilocybin and marijuana and methamphetamine and fentanyl, GHB, and then of course some buffing agent for cocaine. So the significance of that is a lot of these substances that we've seen on the streets of Edmonton, it boils all down to the social impact. Methamphetamine right now is making a huge comeback. We're seeing more and more of it, and not only during these large investigations, but we're also seeing it at the street level, I'd like to say. But that's what's causing a lot of our socialist issues, is that the people are self-medicating using these types of substances. So I would say that's the greatest effect, is how it's affecting our citizens at that lowest level.
Alert also seized hundreds of rounds of ammunition, which the suspect is prohibited from possessing due to a previous conviction. 39-year-old Garrett Nybakin was arrested at his home. February is Heart Month, and heart disease is one of the leading causes of death among Canadians. Dr. Clayton Coganow gives us some advice about supplements that reduce the risk of heart disease.
One of my favorite that I like to suggest is it's called Protegus. It's hawthorn, and hawthorn it's the leaf and berry that grow on hawthorn trees. And you'd think, well, that's weird, but every single bit of research on hawthorn shows benefit for your cardiovascular system. You can even drink it medicinally as a tea. You don't even have to take it as a supplement. It's safe in pregnancy, is how safe it is. So that's when we know something's extremely safe.
We'll have that full interview with Dr. Coganow coming up after the business news. Well, you know it's really cold when hockey pucks are shattering and skate blades are breaking in half. But despite the bone-chilling temperatures between -40 and -55, an outdoor hockey game raising money for cancer research in Alberta is continuing in Sherwood Park, just east of Edmonton. Eye doctor Brent Sayek, who founded the world's longest hockey game in 2003, says he's hoping players will reach their goal to raise $1.5 million by 6 a.m. on Monday, when they will hit the 252-hour mark and break their own Guinness World Record.
With the weather, it's definitely been a challenge, but these guys are troopers. You know, they've been playing in, you know, with winds -40, -45, but they keep coming out here and powering through. And you know, they all have tricks of the trade of how to keep themselves warm, so that they're avoiding as much injury as possible. I think all things considered, they're all doing really well. There's no serious injuries. You know, the usual sore bodies and blisters and lace bites, and but considering the conditions they've been playing in, they're doing really good.
Well, I'm glad it's not me out there playing hockey on this cold weekend, but I tip my hats to those players because much of Alberta is still experiencing extreme cold this weekend. In fact, this prolonged cold snap is expected to end over Alberta by Monday. A full look at the weather forecast is coming up next. Stay with us. Well, as I mentioned before, that prolonged cold snap over Alberta is expected to last until about Family Day Monday. But after that, look at that. Good news coming for next week as we start to get into the plus temperatures. But until then, extreme cold persists throughout the weekend with extremely high wind chill values. Overnight tonight, -32 is our overnight low. It's going to feel more like in the -40s overnight. There's a 30% chance of flurries this evening. Into tomorrow, Saturday, the weekend's here already. Sunshine throughout the weekend. Chilly weather though, -24 the high for Saturday, -20 the high for Sunday, which is also Valentine's Day. And then it is a long weekend. We got our Family Day coming up on Monday with a high of -16. So that's going to feel a little bit warmer than the -24 that we've been used to. So you might want to get outside. 0 is the high for Tuesday. And then we get into the plus temperatures for Wednesday and Thursday with highs of 1 and highs of 3, which will then put us back into our seasonal averages for this time of year, which are average high 1, average low -11. So next week, once we get into those pluses, we should actually be above the average highs for this time of year. So I'm looking forward to that. 15 was our high temperature back in 1988. And back in 1951, we had our chilliest day on record, which was -32. 7:46 is when the sun rose this morning and our evening sunset on our Friday evening is right at 5:45 p.m. So what's happening in the rest of the country for tomorrow? Well, BC is still experiencing that Arctic outflow warning, meaning that Arctic cold air is pressing down into the interior and out to the coast. Victoria expected to get dumped on tomorrow, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow and a 70% chance of light flurries in Vancouver tomorrow. Both of those cities sitting at 1 degree tomorrow. -21, the expected high in Edmonton, and much the same for Calgary, around -22. As Alberta continues with that extreme cold, as does the rest of the prairies. Look at these temperatures. -28 right here for Saskatoon, -26 for Regina. Same thing for Winnipeg. Sunny skies though, and oftentimes the sunshine doesn't necessarily mean warmer weather in the winter. Sometimes it just opens it up to more chilly conditions. -8 the expected high in Toronto. They're expecting some flurries tomorrow. -15 in Ottawa, -12 in Montreal. Wind chill values are going to be expected in those areas as well. Over in Atlantic Canada tomorrow, -6 the high in Fredericton, -2 in Halifax. -4 rather in Charlottetown, expecting some snow, and some 60 kilometer per hour wind gusts expected in St. John's tomorrow with a high of -2. So there you go. That is your forecast. If you are planning on hitting the slopes this weekend, we've got our BCN ski report coming up right now.
Castle Mountain has seen 1 centimeter of snowfall over the past 72 hours with a 110 centimeter base. Nikiska received 3 centimeters with a 107 centimeter base. Sunshine Village did not see any fresh powder over the past 72 hours, but has a 176 centimeter base. And no new snow for Lake Louise, but has a 134 centimeter base. At Mount Norquay, 5 centimeters of snow has fallen over the past 72 hours, leaving a 120 centimeter base. In BC, Panorama has seen 1 centimeter of the white stuff, and they have an 83 centimeter base. Fernie did not receive any new snow, but has a 100 centimeter base, and Kimberley received 3 centimeters of fresh powder with an 80 centimeter base. And that's a look at your Bridge City News Ski Report.
Air Canada is reporting a higher than expected fourth quarter loss in what the airline CEO calls the bleakest year in aviation history. The number of passengers plunged 73% following several years of record growth for Air Canada. The airline says it had a net loss of $1.16 billion compared with a profit of $152 million a year earlier, far higher than the $735.7 million loss that analysts had expected. The airline released its latest financial report shortly after Ottawa approved its $190 million purchase of Transat AT. And meanwhile, WestJet Airlines says federal approval of Air Canada's purchase of Transat AT will be harmful for consumers. The president and CEO of the Calgary-based airline says the approval shows blatant disregard for Canadians who believe in healthy competition. In a statement issued today, Ed Sims says Canadians will face fewer choices and higher fares when they're able to start traveling again. The federal government says the deal was approved because it will bring greater stability to Canada's air transport market amid the devastating impact of the pandemic. Britain's economy suffered its biggest decline in more than 300 years in 2020 as the pandemic closed businesses, devastated the travel industry, and curtailed manufacturing. Official data released today shows the economy shrank 9.9% last year, more than twice the figure for 2009 at the height of the global financial crisis. The drop is the largest since the year 1709, when a cold spell known as the Great Frost devastated what was then a largely agricultural economy. Britain's economy remains shackled by COVID-19 restrictions, but the Bank of England says it's likely to rebound, quote, like a coiled spring as vaccinations roll out. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 67 points to 18,460. The Dow was up 2770 to 31,458. The S&P 500 was up 1845 to 3934. The Nasdaq was up 69 points to 14,095. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.23 to $59.47 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 4 cents to $2.91 US. Gold was down $1.28 to $18.24 US an ounce. And silver was up 38 cents to $27.36 US an ounce. Wheat is at $306 per metric ton. Barley is at $309. Canola is at $719. And corn is at $340 per metric ton. Live cattle were up $1.88 to $117.20. Feeder cattle were up $1.70 to $140.85. Lean hogs were down 3 cents to $74. And the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to $78.80 US.
Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says no one wants a third wave of COVID-19. He says the tighter border controls that will take effect in 10 days are meant to try to keep everyone safe given the rise of much more contagious variants of the virus. Trudeau says the rules about mandatory 3-day hotel quarantines at the traveler's expense are not meant to punish anyone. And Valentine's Day is this weekend, and according to marriage trainers Heather and Alex Borsama, just because you're married, it doesn't mean you should stop dating your spouse. They've got some great tips to stay connected throughout marriage. That full interview is coming up in the second half of our show. Stay with us.